Good morning, Facebook, the world, YouTube, wherever this ends up, I don't know. Hi, Jeremy, Kung Fu Guy, and woke up to some pretty, I can't say devastating because I didn't lose anybody personally that I know of, but I can say draining, exhausting, frustrating, infuriating, disappointing, heartbreaking, I don't know, just... I keep seeing, for those of you that don't know, in Dayton last night, there was a mass shooting at the Oregon District, Ned Peppers. Kudos to the police. They were on site. They handled it within 60 seconds. The situation was resolved. Unfortunately, in those 60 seconds, 9 people lost their life. And at least, last report I saw was like 25 more people were injured. And it was done with a hunting rifle, not an AR-15, not a typical mass assault weapon, assault whatever stuff. And, already there's people on my wall calling for more gun control, more gun laws, take away high-capacity magazines, take away this, take away that. Why can't we do more? Why isn't more being done? And I am angry and I am frustrated because... last weekend, I ran a self-defense seminar in my martial arts school for free. I had 40 people RSVP. I had 6 show up. That's 15%. Don't tell me what more can be done if you're not going to be proactive about your personal safety, about your mindset, about your attitude. Because this is on all of us. This isn't any one person. It's not point the finger over there. Those people on the left. Those people on the right. That's bullshit. It's us, all of us, 330 million Americans with their heads up their ass, their heads in the sand because they're scared. And that's really what this comes down to. This is fear. This is emotional instability, emotional unsafety in our hearts. We don't feel safe. And that's on all sides of the political spectrum, all sides of opinions on racism, on anti-Semitism, on suppressing the LGBTQ plus community, on anything that's not us, that's the strange, the different. People feel threatened, they feel scared, and rather than deal with it, rather than learn about it, rather than engage, they bury, they wall off, they step back. That is not the solution. We must connect, we must understand. Whatever somebody says, that's their truth, that's their reality, that they're speaking from where they are. Okay. And then we engage with it and we go deeper or we go higher and we help them to see a larger world because they're scared and afraid. You can't say this. You can't do that. You can't think that. You can't feel that. But they do, whoever they are. We have all these issues with mental health, but what are we doing about it? We have all these concerns, but then we try to suppress, we try to regulate, we try to medicate, we try to dominate, we try to shut this stuff down. What happens if someone's feeling this, and whatever the methodology, we squish down those feelings. Don't feel that, don't think that, don't say that, don't believe that, don't. We have all these things outside pressing people down. And what happens when you press? Pressure goes up, stuff comes out sideways. And when it comes out sideways, it becomes explosive. Why are people running around mass murdering, mass executing, mass shooting? Is it because they feel heard and acknowledged? They feel mentally and emotionally safe? They have a place that they can speak their heart and their mind and be understood and appreciated? Or is it the exact opposite? They are in fear and they are scared and they can't say this, they can't feel this, and they make themselves wrong and they push it down, and then the shit comes out sideways. It always does. People don't just randomly start screaming for no reason. Now, truth be told, I started dating Autumn in 2013. She lived at the St. Clair Lofts, literally a block and a half away from the Oregon District. We left because there was somebody there was a Vex nightclub. Somebody came out of the club, there was something going on, whatever. It's 2:30 in the morning, 11 shots fired. Somebody was murdered behind the Arby's in the Oregon District. Woke me up, and I'm like, we're out of here. And we had the ability, we had the resources, we had the capability that when our lease came up, we left. Doesn't solve the problem, but it keeps us safe. And I've reached out. I have friends in downtown Dayton. I've reached out to people and said, hey, I'd love to do some self-defense stuff for you. Love to do some physical, mental, emotional safety, radio silence. There is no amount of I can offer training mentally, emotionally. I have stuff, how we fix our heads and our hearts, how we get them to talk to each other. Why did I go and get a master's certification in neurostrategies and neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy? Because anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, those negative emotions are messengers if we engage, if we go into them and say, where is this coming from? I was sexually abused at 5 and 6 in Saudi Arabia and here in Dayton, Ohio, by an adult security guard in Saudi and by a couple of kids up the street here in Dayton. And I hid all that stuff and suppressed it and made myself wrong for over 20 years. I understand anger. I understand frustration. I understand rage. But what I didn't do was take that shit out on anybody else. I took it out on myself. And then one day, it was May, it was 1995, Grandmaster Ming looked me in the eye. He heard me say something about myself, to myself, out loud that was destructive. And he said, don't talk to yourself like that. That one statement helped me begin to unpack everything going on in my head, everything going on in my heart. I was working in a sandpaper factory. I hated that job. I hated going to sleep because it meant I had to get up and go to work at a place that I hated. But I was productive because I was angry all the time. Because he said, don't talk to yourself like that. I started listening to my head, to my heart, the conflict, the conversation. I realized I am such a jerk to myself. Forget about anybody else. Of course I'm going to spew this stuff out. There's so much in here. And that was the journey that I began to unlock and unpack what was going on. It took 5 years for me to feel safe enough for those memories of abuse to show back up. Didn't tell anybody about it. Didn't have anyone to talk to. Didn't trust anyone. It's not about who's fueling this. This is about an existential issue we all have. We're all afraid. If we don't know how to create emotional safety for ourselves, forget about giving it to anybody else. It's all just a veneer. We're just slathering it together, hoping. Every politician leverages fear because there's money in it. If we can all become stable, self-sufficient inside ourselves, politics, religion, money, don't talk about it. Not in polite society. What does that do? It keeps all of us from communicating with each other. It keeps all of us back. And do you think the rich and the powerful, do you think they talk about politics and religion and money? You better believe it, because they learn how to leverage it. They learn how to use it. So we have to have that conversation, not from who's right, who's wrong, but from what's right, what's wrong, what serves the greatest good and gives the most freedom. We want to have freedom and accountability. We got to have both, but that requires us as citizens. We have to become bigger. We have to be more engaged. I taught sexual violence prevention at the University of Dayton. Over 7,000 people on campus. Less than 30 people showed up. That's 0.5%. And I know there is sexual assault happening. All of the colleges. I know there's bullying going on in our school systems, but every school I talk to, oh, we don't have a problem with that here. Nope, we're good. We're good, thank you. We're going to bury our heads in the sand because if we don't admit there's a problem, then we're not culpable. And your kids are hurting themselves. I have a student in my martial arts school. She's 10 years old. She's already tried to kill herself. 10 years old, already tried to kill herself. Tell me there's not an issue with bullying. Tell me that everything is fine and hunky-dory. I know it's not. I see it. So what can we do? How can we do more? That's on all of us. Not those politicians, not those business owners, not that organization. All of us. Organizations only have power because we give it to them. Politicians only have power because we give it to them. With the companies and the organizations, we vote with our money. With the politicians, we vote with our votes, and we vote with our money. And with all of them, we have to choose who we're going to feed energy to, who we're going to give energy to. It's on us. Every single time this happens, people wring their hands and what more can we do, and let's take away more stuff. That doesn't solve the problem. That is symptomatic. Guns make it easier. It makes it faster. I'm qualified on a whole bunch of weapons. I also know how to make explosives because I was in the military. Guess how much I have in my house? 0. Maybe. Because I'm going to keep my family safe. But what's going to serve the greater good? I have kids with impulse issues. not going to keep guns in the house necessarily. Because if I say I have them, I don't have them, I become a target on either side. Well, how dare you? Who do you think you are? But then, oh, he doesn't have anything. Let's go get him. There's no win here. Because it's not anybody's business whether I do or don't have weapons in my house. What's more important is I've trained my heart and my mind to understand situations. Pay attention, notice. My neighbor across the street, I went grocery shopping, there's a car sitting there, engine running, nobody inside. I checked. No kids, no animals in the car, but the car's running. Came back from shopping. Hour and a half later, the car is still running. That's weird. So we called the police, not 911, because we weren't worried about an emergency, but we called to say, hey, there's a car sitting here. We're kind of concerned. It's been a while. You've got to check in on your neighbors. You've got to pay attention to your environment. Notice what's happening with people. And then be willing to speak up. Be willing to alert the authorities to get help for people. Thankfully, he had just done a double and passed out. He had a keyless entry to his car, and he pushed the button start stop thing. He was fine. He was asleep. But somebody could have stole his car because his car was unlocked. So because we spoke up, turns out he and the police officer, they know each other. They're like, they work out at the same gym. They're like, oh, hey. And he's like, oh, hey. And I'm so glad that there was no issue there. There was no medical emergency. Nobody was killed. Nobody was on fire. Nobody was, kids are fine. There's nothing. It's safe. But we spoke up. And this is what we have to do. You and me. It's an us. It's not a they. There's no they. Because we're all human beings. So you want to do more? Great. Engage. Go and take self-defense classes. Go learn about how to get your head and your heart to become friends. Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, they are information. What you do with it is what matters. What you feel, it's real. It might be based on wrong stuff, but you feel it, it's real. You own it. You say, you know what, I feel this. Fine. After you feel it, now what are you going to think about it? Oh, how dare I? That's so wrong. I should not think that. And you squish it down. No. What is this here to teach me? What is this here to show me? What is this here to learn? That's how we get out of this. We don't get out of the hole by jumping in to try and boost other people out because it keeps us stuck. We get more tools. We get more resources. We stay out of the hole, and then we can help get stuff to put in the hole, help lift people up. Right? You guys have heard the story. There's the donkey, and it fell down in the well that was dried out, and everyone's like, well, who cares? It's an old donkey, and he's useless anyway. He's just going to die. So they take the shovel, and they start throwing dirt on top of the donkey, and the donkey lays down to die. It's like, oh my gosh, they don't want me, and he starts crying. And he's sitting there, and he shakes his head, and the dirt falls on either side of him, and he realizes, wait a second. Every time they throw the dirt to bury me, if I shake it off and stand on it, and the more they try to bury him, the more he shakes it off, the more he stands up, and what happens? He gets out of the hole. What they thought was they were just going to bury their problem. They were just going to cover it up and forget about it because it was worthless and useless anyway. And he used that. Right? The great story about I took the rocks that people threw at me, and that's why I used to build my palace. Every successful person has pain. Pain is a part of the process. Suffering, that's entirely on yourself. No one can make you suffer without your permission. But if you don't have the tools, if you don't know how to process that, that's when you got to get some help. Right? It's, my head, it just won't leave me alone. I've been there. I've had that. I've had the destructive thoughts. I've had the stuff in my head that I don't know where this is coming from, and it's scary and it's violent. But what I did was I explored it. I went into it to understand it. Say, this isn't who I am. This is what I am thinking. What you think, what you feel, and what you do are not you. They are a part, but they are not you. You are something greater and bigger and larger. What are you going to do with it? That's what matters. That's where your power is. That's where your ability to create. That's where we live. That's where our heart truly is. Right? Carl Sagan, you are made of star stuff. We are made of the firmament of the universe. Don't drag yourself through the mud. So yeah, bad things happen. Bad things are always going to happen. Bad things always have happened. But what are we going to do with it? If I can look at the abuse that I suffered at 5 and 6 years old and say that was the greatest gift I was ever given, because it drove me into a space where I learned and I expanded and I understand. I unpacked it. It became a gift to me, one that I would never wish on anybody else. So now, what do we do with this moment? And this moment is the 250th moment this year in America. Supposedly, I haven't checked all the stats and stuff. I just saw that passed around. I know this is like the 3rd or 4th shooting this week. People are scared. They're frustrated. And they're made wrong. And all that does is expand the problem. You disagree with what somebody's thinking, you disagree with what somebody's feeling, that's fine. But they have a right to feel that way. Because that's where they are. And then you engage, you can unpack it, you can open it up and say, that's really interesting that you feel that way. Where do you think that came from? What led you to that? Because then you can begin to show them other experiences, other points of view. They may go, I hadn't heard that before. But if you come at them and say, you are wrong, you have to give up this, you have to, the more you point the finger at them, the harder they're just going to back up. Last thought I'll leave you with is this. A rat, when cornered, will fight. How much more a person? The more you force people into a corner, the more they're going to fight back. And if they feel they're being forced into a corner, there's the problem. We've got to leave room for people to exist. That's the whole point of compassion. But we can't be so compassionate you can just say whatever you want. We got to also have wisdom. We got to apply knowledge with our compassion. So thank you for joining me for a few minutes. I am sorry that this is going on, and reach out. I do self-defense stuff. I do stuff physical, mental, emotional, social. I'm here to serve. There's stuff I've offered to the community for free, behind the scenes, nothing. No response. No whatever. Oh, we're okay. We don't have that problem. The hell you don't. You do have that problem. It's here. It's all around us. We all have this problem. As long as any one of us has that problem, we all have that problem. Actually, last story. This is actually one of my favorite. But there is a... Imagine your favorite spiritual teacher. It doesn't matter who it is. A religious deity, metaphysical person, philosopher, it doesn't matter who it is. But imagine that person, and they could gather all of humanity together. All humanity that has ever existed. And he says, who wants peace? And everybody's raising hands. As far as the eye can see, hands, 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 hands. And this person says, great. Everybody, hands back down. Who wants war? One person raises their hand. He wins. Because as long as that one person is willing to commit violence, willing to go to that place, if everyone else just wants peace, they will placate, they will dominate. There's no amount of give Hitler what he wanted that he would be satisfied. Give him the Sudetenland, he'll be fine. Nope, wasn't fine. Give him France, he'll be fine. Nope, he wasn't fine. Because it wasn't anything out there that he could be given. It was in here. It was in here. And if these two aren't connected and aren't looking at how to create warm, big, happy for everyone, we are all going to suffer. All of us. Steve, you're exactly right. Look in the mirror, take responsibility. That's what I'm doing. What more can I do in my community? I've reached out to school systems, I've reached out to churches, I've reached out to daycares, I've reached out to hospitals, and I've worked with some hospitals, and I've worked with some school systems, but it's nothing consistent. Because the pain isn't hard enough on them for them to want to stay active. And the pain's not, honestly, the pain's not hard enough on me. Thankfully, I didn't lose a family member. There are 9 families right now that are grieving, that are suffering because they lost someone near and dear to their hearts. What are we going to do with it? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to keep reaching out. I'm going to keep knocking on doors. I'm going to keep saying, hey, I'm here. I'm here to serve. This just reinforces for me my mission. Lighting up the world, but by what? Helping kids. The kid inside all of us. But kids. Helping them to feel strong enough to speak up for themselves. To own their voice. And giving parents the tools to hear them. Giving teachers, giving educators the tools to hear this. Yeah, there's like 25, 35 in the hospital. Yeah. It's horrible. But what can we do? What can I do? I want to give people the access to the voice and be able to hear and understand each other. Really see to each other's heart. Not listen to the words. Listen to the heart. So this Sunday, hug your family. Love them today because you may not get it tomorrow. Nobody went out last night except one person thinking, I might not make it home tomorrow. One person went out planning to make sure people didn't go home. And it wasn't personal to them. It was personal about himself. He just took the rest of us into his BS, into his belief system, into his bullshit. Hug your family. Love them. Stay safe, guys. Touch base. Reach out, please. Have a great Sunday.